Just water. It's just a bubbly water.
Deal. She'll be on in a second.
Oh, there she is.
Yep, she's got her. Okay, she's in. All right. We'll go ahead and call to order City Council work session and regular meeting for Thursday, June 16th, 2022. It is 6 p.m. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Lester,
Here.
Baker,
Here.
Reva, Cool,
Here.
Livingston,
Here.
Mayor Tom Phillips.
I am here as well. We do have a quorum, so we will continue. Item 2 is Pledge of Allegiance. Would you stand up and say Pledge of Allegiance with me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item 3 is approval of the agenda. You'll notice that the agenda item for item 8P indicates first readings. Well, that was supposed to read first and possibly more, so we're amending the agenda to include that wording. Would anybody like to move any of the consent agenda items to the regular agenda? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Motion.
Motion by Baker, seconded by Reba. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Motion carries. Item 4 is dedicated work session. So this is a dedicated work session for mayor and city council. Work session is expected to last an hour or so, but we'll swing right into the regular council meeting when the work session ends. So the first item tonight is naming of city facilities and infrastructure. First on the line is park naming facility. You want to?
Well, so when this came up originally, I think it was Councilmember Cool that brought up, had some questions. So I suppose it depends on what level you want staff to kind of go through, whether it be the park naming policy or the street naming policy. If you'd like Robin to kind of step through the basics, or if you had some specific questions.
For me, I'm familiar with the park naming policy. I don't know about the other council members, but I had an opportunity to review it, and I appreciate that. And
I agree with Ed. I'm good. Oh, sorry, Ed, didn't mean to interrupt.
that's all right. That's okay. Does anybody need her to review that? Just asking. Okay. The concerns that I had a couple of them. First, we had a situation in our town where a street was named after a living person. And that person was a friend of mine, and which is neither here nor there. But I just felt like the naming authority, which resides with the council, was getting away from it, because I don't remember voting on it. Now, my memory's not the best in the world, so, right? I realize that. The other thing that concerned me, and maybe it's a personal thing, but the naming of the sports facility up in the new addition that we're working on, right? And I don't remember the council voting. Maybe I don't remember it, but I don't remember it. And I wonder if we might not want to review the policies and procedures with the mind of trying to reel some control and some things back in. I've got concerns about naming things after living people. I imagine you could have an exception where there's some tremendous reason, but it just concerns me because I think that there's different opportunities and different pressures there, right? To do such a thing. It may not always be a positive situation sometimes. After people have passed, it's neither here nor there. The other thing is, I wonder in the definition of the criteria, for the names, if it wouldn't be best to have, in addition to that criteria, have a selection of approved names, just a list of them, right? That people have reviewed, nobody has any problem with. And maybe Park and Rec, or maybe whoever does it, planning, whoever it is that's picking these things, picks them off the list and runs them up to us for a vote, whether we approve it or not. Right? Sometimes, I mean, not everybody has the same taste, right? So one person's idea that they think is great could be objectionable to other people. You know what I'm saying? And maybe having a filtered list that names would get placed on there by, whatever they are, might give us an ability to better control what those things are. That makes any sense to me. And I'm not saying that we should take any authority away from the Park and Rec board, you know, for nominating things, right? Or maybe the city planners for nominating things, or maybe developers for nominating names, right? But what I'm saying is that in the end, the council has a final authority on approving and naming things. Okay? I just think we need to be more guarded and more careful, think through the approach that we use, right, to get those things done. And that's where I was coming from. Right. Okay. And I don't know, you know, maybe the staff has some suggestions and some ideas on how those things might be accomplished, or what's the smarter way to go about it.
So,
What everybody else thinks.
well,
Go
I was going to start by saying when I read the park and rec policy or the park naming policy, I guess I didn't take that as the names would come from Park and Rec. It felt like that was more when something's donated to Park and Rec in honor of somebody, that they would have approval that way. I guess I was when I read that policy, I read it differently than maybe what the intent was. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I think that's in there, you know, that like a Mackinac Park, for example, right? That somebody that donate something to that effort.
No, it said something to the effect of if someone requests something to be named or in honor of or in memory of somebody. I mean, that was the take that I took, that policy really derived was for that sort of thing, not necessarily the naming of the park. I guess that's where I've struggled with this, because I don't feel like I'm like you, Ed. I don't feel like we've had really any decision. It's always been, here's the name we're going to go with. And there's never been any input from council as to what we want or what we, to me, that's maybe where I've struggled with it a little bit, is that like Serenity Woods, it was just told us that's the name of the park, is Serenity Woods. And we were told to approve that or not approve it. And that was our choice. And I get we can say no, but at the same time, I guess I don't know how we got to that point either. And maybe that's the part that needs to be explained, is how we get to naming a park.
Anybody? Yeah, you want to take
Okay.
a stab at that one?
So, I think that comes into play as far as, the Parks Department and Commission was when it was the, staff initiated naming request, that we would come up with a name for parks, greenways, our facilities, trails, and then based on commission recommendation, we would bring that forward to you guys. And at that time, if you did not approve of the name, we would go back to the drawing board and try to come up with something different. But I don't think the intent was just to make the naming after a person.
Okay.
So,
Well, I wonder what would happen if we had like maybe options of different names. I mean, I don't know. Just brainstorming here, trying to think of a way that the council could actually be more involved in
Yeah.
decision making. I would hate to say after a committee's done all that work, I'd hate to turn around and say, I don't like that one. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? That's
I
not
think we would
necessarily-
be very open to having any of your suggestions. Currently, we have a long list of options, and as new parks come in, we don't always stick with the options that we have. We may think of other ones. For example, a park that we have not brought to you yet for approval is the Norwalk Central, the parkland dedication in that. We did not choose from the long list of names that we have. We thought of a new name for that one, and that was just as simple as Norwalk Central Park. But was not originally on our list to pick for any other park, wouldn't have fit over in Timberview or Timber Ridge. And so, like I said, I have not brought that forward for your approval because I knew we were in the middle of this naming rights conversation. So there are a few parks that we have discussed already in commission for some new names. But we can definitely go back to commission with new suggestions from you guys and have them pick out names. I'm open to anything. It's
But it
okay.
is commission that is coming up with the names. It's not necessarily staff. The
It's-
commission is approving or is suggesting the name to council.
Correct. So staff, commission, we have all kind of come up with names. And then commission, staff does not recommend names to commission. Commission has the parkland, they see the development, and they are the ones that come up with the name, vote on a recommendation to come to you. That is not staff vote.
But how does it work, Luke? How does it work when we name streets? Where does that come from? How does that go?
So a couple different ways. We actually have a chapter of the code that talks about how we handle street naming. So it's actually an ordinance, chapter 140. That says a couple things. One, it says when a street extends a natural extension of the existing street, you're going to name it the same thing. It says that all streets need to be named as by resolution from council or by part of a subdivision plat. So in reality, most of our streets get named because a subdivision plat comes before council and they approve it. So you're not overt, like specifically saying, oh, we want to name these ones, but you're kind of de facto doing that by approving those plats with the street names on them. So that's what the ordinance requires. The policy that we put together here is focused more on addressing, but does have a section that, and maybe some of the terms we talk about being approved by zoning administrator. It's not really approved until you guys approve a plat. But what we do as staff is we make sure that street names make sense when they're lining up with other streets. We make sure that street names are duplicated in town. And we make sure that, what was the last one there? Sorry. Make sure that they're just in total making sense with the whole community. So whether they're making a connection through or if they're online with another one, but they're not actually connecting, making those determinations. So, and then when we say, I guess in this policy, when we say we're approving that, we're saying that's a good street name to move forward onto council for that ultimate acceptance and approval at council. So
when any developer would come in, they'd come in with a plat and they would have proposed street names on it probably
Correct.
most of the time.
Yep, the
So
prelim
unless-
plats will start out.
So unless there was a reason to derail a name, like you're talking about,
Yep.
Then they're probably gonna go on through and that's
Yeah.
probably how they'll.
Sometimes we'll have a prelim plat come in with a name and then maybe there's a little tiny sub-street in town that we missed, and it's like, well, we approved the prelim plat with that street name, but that doesn't actually name that street. Street doesn't get named until we approve the final plat and accept the infrastructure. That's when it formally gets named, because that gets recorded at the county. So, we'll make sure we catch those by the time the final plat goes through. There have been times when council's gone back and changed the street name by resolution, but that's relatively rare. And the times that's happened, it's been in a new development that just got approved, and we decided to change the name to make more sense.
Yeah, otherwise you could mess up a lot of addresses and cause a lot of disharmony.
Yes. Yep. So, but I think at certain times we'd had some discussions about renaming different streets in town, and it usually came back to, well, you've got the authority to do that, but it's a substantial hardship for the folks that and businesses that reside on that street. So we've not done that.
How much of a hassle would it be if you had a proposed list of street names and it was something that the council in advance had said, yeah, those all sound pretty good to us. And as a developer came in, you could say it, if they've got something they absolutely want named after their wife or their daughter or something, that's one thing, right?
It would be tricky to do. Just so in some respects, street names are easy because somebody comes in and they do like Hackney Hills, you folks and the Ron Farms folks.
Yeah, let's pick on him.
But to that point, like there's a theme there. We're developing a, old horse farm. So there's horse names, right?
Which is pretty cool.
Most of our other developments up to this point had been tree themed, right? How many tree themed roads do we have in town, right? And so a lot of times that's just fitting with a theme of what they're calling their development. And a lot of times it's what used to be there, right? There used to be a horse farm there, so now it's Hackney Hills. There used to be an orchard there, so now it's Orchard View, right? Yeah. I guess there was a shadow at a creek for Shadow Creek. So, in some respects, those things come naturally when people do that stuff. In other times, we have things where folks really struggle with thinking of what names they want to call stuff, and things will be Street A, Street B, Street C for a very long time through the review process until we're like, no, seriously, you got to give me some street names. So in those regards, that list would help. Man, I don't know what that list looks like because it can go take so many.
I don't know. I'm just trying to brainstorm different ideas. I tried to explain to the reason that one of the reasons why this came up wasn't just because I didn't care for the name given the athletic center, but I also had to try to explain to somebody why you don't have a Washington or a Lincoln, or, you know what I mean? In an age when it seems like some people are focused on tearing down history, right? We haven't recognized. I mean, as far as naming things, right? And so I thought to myself, well, we probably backed into that. I don't think that was anything anybody intentionally did. But I think it's something worth thinking about as we're trying to plan a community and help a community to grow. Is maybe we need to have a system somehow where we can inject that into it. I'm not saying that, it's not good to name stuff horse related if you redevelop an horse farm. But what I'm saying is when there are opportunities to do that. And maybe that's a discussion we can have with developers on the way in somehow. Right. So that, it doesn't cause a great gnashing of teeth and stuff.
My problem with the list like that is that it's going to be changing all the time. I would think.
That's true.
You want to add and people want to take away, and so it becomes a burden to community development as far as what names are okay, what names are not okay, and then the other one is that like with Dean, I don't think we should expect staff to know past city employees that are still alive. I think that's a burden that they shouldn't have to bear as well.
Yeah. And and I'm not saying that they necessarily did anything wrong.
Right.
All I'm saying is that I don't remember. Maybe I was involved in some discussions and I just don't remember.
Yeah. That specific situation would be an example of a subdivision plat that came in where someone decided to name a street something.
Okay, all
So
right.
we never we don't overtly call those out. And, I suppose that would be one thing we could change it in how we present things to you all, is to give you in our staff report a list of here are the street names being proposed for this. If you want to be more overt in discussing those, but historically we've just left them on the plat and, made sure that things line up. And because to us, that's what's the most important thing, is making sure that the community makes sense with continuation of streets. And once you get inside of development,
Yeah.
the new street, should give you something.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to discuss it. Luke, yeah.
I had a question. I want to go back to some of the park things, just so I make sure I understand that we're following through on the procedures of what council wants us to do. So I feel like what we've done on parks is there are some ideas, some names that come up either from park commission or from staff.
Mhm.
That goes to the park commission. There's a recommendation of a name that comes forward to council. Was your concept that council would first look at a summary of options, approve those options, and then have that go to the park commission?
I suppose, I don't know. I suppose it could work that way. I don't want to make it too complicated, but maybe that could do it, I suppose. Or, here's a list of names we came up with for future parks. What's it look like to you? Yeah, right. We want to use this one now, or this one there. Or, these were the ones on the approved list, but geez, we really like to name it, Pine Hills, whatever it is, right? And then, so when we look at it, we got, 2, 3 names. This is the one, like the staff normally does. When we have a decision to make, you usually bring us options.
Those alternatives.
You can do this, that, and the other one. The world will end if you do this one, and these are the consequences. We recommend this one over here, right? And maybe that kind of an approach with the naming of things. Somehow.
Ed, what if it was going off like our standard agenda statement that has those alternatives? Maybe it could be the same, that those alternatives were maybe the 5 or 6 names that you took as an option to the park commission, and then they say, we recommend number 3.
Okay, so if we did that, how would we have come up with Norwalk Central? What process would you like us to go through? Because, Norwalk Central Park would have never been on that list. If council, and maybe council doesn't like it, and that's okay. But I'm saying that would
I'm
have
just
been.
one vote.
I know. I'm saying if you end up saying yes to that, I think on that original list, that would have probably not been on that approved list. So if we come up with a name that we think is more fitting for a park that is not on the list that you guys recommend, how would you like us to bring that forward? Or if staff comes up with a name of an individual that that commission wants to name the park after, will we still follow the living or deceased person as the policy reads? But if it's not a living or deceased person, it will go off of the approved list.
Maybe it has to do with feedback and communications. Maybe that's the piece that's missing.
Okay.
Maybe it's, we're going to be bringing this to you. Maybe in comments the session before. Right? What comments or what feedback do you want to give me? I just want to find a way that we're not up here approving something we don't want, or telling you no to something you guys worked hard on. Right? But yet feel like we still haven't given up the reins. So maybe somebody else has better ideas. I don't know.
No. Are you suggesting that council should give them the list of names?
I hope not.
No, I'm thinking that after hearing the discussion, I personally would like the council to send names to the commission and let the commission then say, of these names, we like this. I don't know.
I'm not in favor of the council getting in the regular business of naming the parks. I think that the commission can do it and we can say yay or nay. I don't think that we're any more equipped to come up with better names than the commission. So I'm not in favor of the city being in the business of naming all the parks and whatever else we got going on. I think the commission is capable of doing that. That's my 2 cents.
I think.
But I don't think the commission's doing it yet. I think the staff's telling the commission this is what we should name it, and the commission's saying yes to it.
Okay,
then
I'm
they're
fine with
making
that
it-
procedure as well.
No, having been on the liaison for the commission for a couple of years, I can tell you that's absolutely not how it worked. The commission actually spent like 4 or 5 meetings coming up with the list. There was this big list. And whenever a park has come up, and I assume it's the same thing that came up with Norwalk Central, looked at that list, thought it was appropriate, maybe something would be a little bit more, in order. But there was flexibility, but it wasn't just a slam dunk, let's just pick this name. There's a lot of thought that goes into that, and staff, actually, I don't think none of you made a suggestion. Except for their thing, well, like, where could we start? And I think Dakota said, well, we could just start going through a list of prairie grasses. But
And it's-
that was the extent of the recommendations. from
And the
staff.
discussions last a couple months. I mean, I have one commission meeting per month. And it's not where most of the time, it's not where we present it hasn't happened yet, where we present a plan dedication and say, hey, what do you want the name to be? Most of the time we'll present it, we'll go through the list, people will have different ideas, and it's either from the long list or they've added to, and we say, okay, let's narrow this down to the top 3. Give it a month, we'll come next month and we'll vote on which one you want. I would also say that any new parkland that comes up, you guys see that in the PUDs that come forward. Please, if you have ideas of park names that you think would fit, I welcome any recommendations, because it is not, it's sometimes grueling to have them pick a name, because we know it's a name that's going to be there for many, 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 many years. And we want it to, be the right one, and we want it to fit. So
I do think it would be neat to see the options that you talked about.
yeah, I can share that,
Yeah.
definitely.
What about if a council member had some ideas for a park? Because generally those plans come through and council, you're seeing, hey, this is where this park is going to be. I'm assuming you would welcome any ideas to come
Yeah.
forward that you could take forward.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Right.
We are very open for any help or suggestions that you guys have for us. So I know council or commission is as well. So.
And I'm wondering about, I think Norwalk Central and that whole operation should be treated probably different than an individual park. I don't see that as being the equivalent. We're trying to sell rights, naming rights, I think, to that at a very high price. And so they'll probably have a say in it if someone pays that.
Brian, I'm glad you brought that up, because that actually is a really good point. We're going to be talking about sponsorship on another item later in the agenda. And over time, that brings a whole new perspective,
Yeah.
especially for that Norwalk Central Park, that we may be saying that one year it's whatever, Stephanie Riva Event Center, because she's the
Oh,
one
yeah,
that's
she kicks in a
sponsoring
bunch
that.
of money, that'd be good.
And then 2 years later, Ed Cool says, well, I'm gonna put in more, and so it gets.
Oh,
the name
get
is
the
changed.
name and the bidding deal.
So that's a good point. So in that location with sponsorships, it may look different.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the discussion. That was on my mind, and I welcome the opportunity to discuss it. Maybe everybody can kind of think about it a little bit.
Right, I think we need to I think just paying attention to the street names as we get the preliminary plat or the final plats, whatever whichever one they're on.
Yeah,
So that,
what we can do is start just listing them out in the staff report, so it's a little easier to see. And then, I think doing that at a prelim plat or even a PUD stage, because that gives you time to think of, if you do a final plat, you're going to delay a final plat if you don't like something. And we'd rather not do that.
that's true. So that way we know, and at that point in time, you can put the kibosh on a name if you want to.
Yep, sounds like a move forward to me.
And it could just be a suggestion, hey, let's change this name.
Right. What do you think, Doc?
And when they bring a final plat in, that's okay.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, good discussion. So are you clear as far as what council wants as far as park naming goes?
So I'm going to send you guys a list of the current names that we have on a list. So you guys are aware of what is on our list. If you guys want to add to that, I welcome that. And then going forward, follow the same procedures that I'm doing now.
Yeah, and as far as a new park name goes, give us the options that the commission talked about.
Okay.
The top one that they voted for and
Okay.
the ones they didn't vote for. And
Okay.
that way we know that you had the discussion.
Okay, thanks, Mayor.
David and Jackie, you good with those?
Yes.
Baker Street does have a good ring to it.
Is David okay with that? I didn't hear.
Okay, you okay with that, David? You're on mute.
David ain't talking, he's on mute or something.
No, not really, but I get a sense that it's everybody else is okay with it. So I don't know why I want to bucket at this point.
What part don't you like? Let's talk about it a little bit.
I guess mine is like I said before, I think the park naming process is, because Robin said staff comes up with a recommendation to this is me just saying what Robin said, and then it was no, that's not how it happens. So I don't know if that's really how it happens or if it just, I don't know. I guess I don't, we bought the acres down around North River, and after that meeting, staff was all still there, and we were talking about how it'd be exciting to have a naming contest or something for that. And then all of a sudden we have on our agenda from the park commission, this is recommended name for it. So I guess that's my frustration with it is, I don't know. I guess I'm just not, I just feel like there's a lack of communication on it. And I guess that's been my problem with, if there's a problem with a staff member, that seems to be what it is they don't seem to communicate to the council what's happening, what's going on.
Okay, I'm sorry for that. I did not intend for that.
Well,
I do know
some of
that
that's
staff-
on us too, right?
I do know that staff does not make recommendations to commission. The initial list was started by staff coming up with a few names and commission coming up with a few names. But that has been the extent that staff involvement has been with coming up with park names.
Okay, I think David hit on something though in communications. And
Yeah.
Some of that's on us, not on them either. So,
So you guys okay where we're at with park naming policy and street naming policy?
yeah, I am with that. Let's give it a try.
Shall we talk about golf cart ordinance? The draft?
Yeah, does everybody have to have one or what?
Yeah.
So I think it was 2 work sessions ago, maybe, we talked about golf carts again. I was directed to go back and try and figure out something and put it on paper. This is what we figured out. It authorizes the golf cart to be driven across a street in the most direct route to get from a residence to a golf course or golf cart path, or incidental to the playing of golf. So if you were on the golf course and you needed to cross Turnberry, because that's the way the code goes, it would give you authorization to do that. if we write an ordinance according to the state that allows golf carts to be operated on city streets, we have to follow some rules. There's also in this, that's the sunset to sundown, warning flag, slow moving vehicles. And listening to some conversations, comments from council about juveniles driving golf carts, we put in as a suggestion that an operator had to be 16 and licensed and a licensed driver. And then the thing that's different about this compared to what many other cities do is that we're authorizing the golf cart to drive on the path along the side of the road, which are otherwise known as sidewalks. We did some research and found that on May 5th, 2005, council had some sort of action. We found this in the minutes, but we did not find a resolution. Is that right? We found a note in the minutes from May 5th, 2005, that the council voted affirmatively to allow sidewalks on one side of the street on Bluestem Road and Prairie Rose, not on the other, to make the one side wider for the express purpose of driving a golf cart on. By code, that's illegal, but that's what the council at the time was trying to do, but the code was never updated to allow it. Then when the rest of the Echo Valley neighborhood was built out, according to community development after discussions with Luke, one side of the street, the sidewalk on one side of the street is wider than the other side, under the assumption that carts would be allowed to be driven on the wider side of the road. That's never been authorized by council. It was just part of the plat, part of the concept of the neighborhood to go along with the original part of the neighborhood when the sidewalk was put in there wide for carts. So this ordinance draft allows somebody to drive their cart on the sidewalk, the one described, and I have the map in the packet. Rudimentary squiggly red lines on the side of the road where a cart would be potentially allowed. We have it at the work session because I don't know that this is what would actually end up being the final version. So.
Okay, I got a question for Jim. And that would be, does the council need to follow up with an action to designate that sidewalk as a cart path or to allow cars?
Well, I think if we want to allow
That
golf
would-
carts
that
to
would check it.
operate on there, then yeah, we would have to do something to allow that, because otherwise they're driving on a sidewalk, which our code doesn't allow. That's
So-
the right question.
So if it's in the PUD, we make a lot of exceptions in PUDs. 'Cause I
About,
remember talking about the ridge and we were talking
I do
about
too.
That's
specifically the
probably-
golf cart side.
I'd have to go back and read the PUD. I did not, when talking with Chief Staples, I didn't look that up. I just
But what,
relied on my knowledge of what we'd approved in the plats.
but don't we have to have enabling budget, an ordinance to support that happening?
That's what this does.
is an ordinance.
But I think PUD might call for a wider path, but I mean, to authorize the driving of golf carts, I think we need another ordinance.
Yeah,
To
and
authorize the
You have to
driving of
amend
it on
both.
there. Yeah.
You'd have to
Yeah, the
do the
PUD 's
PUD
zoning.
and amend.
Yeah, so it's an
Authorize
enabling.
the driving,
to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't know, Baker's probably got a slow moving vehicle sign waiting in his garage somewhere, but I don't know. You're a golf cart owner. I mean, you got any comments or thoughts?
Yeah, there's 130 or so, probably conservatively speaking, in the greens of Echo Valley, Lakewood, and the Ridge, 3 areas. I have some different ideas. When you and I talked about making golf carts legal for the street, that's where the signs and the flags came in. Well, we are talking about incidental crossings of streets, the same as Briarwood, Otter Creek, Legacy, Copper Creek, and Echo all do. And they don't have flags and triangles required. I'm just curious how that was able to be spun.
My understanding as a non-lawyer is that if golf carts are allowed on the city street by ordinance, we must follow state guidelines, which requires a sunrise to sunset only. In the sun. I
Well-
can't tell you, Mayor sent me a code section from another city in Iowa, but I can't think of right off the top of my head, that created a golf cart ordinance without those regulations.
Well, I mean, first of all, even for golf, the sunrise to sunset doesn't work. Typically, people golf an hour after sunset. And the
Yeah,
maintenance crews
but
are out at 4:30 AM.
The chief's correct, though. I mean, the statute's pretty cut and dry on what it says. And it doesn't.
So everyone ignores it.
Yes,
Okay.
I would say that everybody ignores it. But, you know, I don't think a city making ordinances to allow it, I mean, it dictates what has to be in there. And it doesn't say you have to have this unless you're only driving a little bit on the street. It's
Or if you have
kind of cut and
lights.
dry.
Or if you have lights. A long time ago, before cars had lights, were they regimented to sunrise to sunset? None of this makes a lot of sense. They have lights, tail lights, headlights.
Yeah, no, but,
These are.
and that's pretty
pretty
common. I
modern.
mean, there was even a new law signed in this week by the governor about UTV operations. And they get in the same thing as far as lights. Lights have to be on 100% of the time, whether it's day or whether it's night. It amended the state UTV operation rules, which frankly opened up UTV usage for out in the county. Basically, any gravel road that's out in the county right now, UTVs can drive on because of this new law. As long as they're registered, they got proof of insurance, they have lights on 100% of the time. They don't exceed a certain speed.
So we should go for golf carts 100% on the streets at all time. We have to have the exact same rules. We have to have the flags, we have to have everything. We might as well be getting fantastic mileage. And use batteries, do the whole 9 yards. If we're.
As long
Okay,
as they can go with the flow of traffic and have seatbelts, I'm for it.
Perfect. What I would like to do is, the problem for this seriously is it's unworkable for the golf courses. Legacy brings in 30 to 40 carts at a time to rent. And today I was looking at the golf cart and I have no idea where A, you'd put a triangle and B, you'd put a flag. And then you have to be able to take it off 30 and 40 at a time in a day's notice to have these shipped off. So I'm just mystified.
I'm with you, which is why this is a draft and why I got a work session.
It is a very good years. Carts have been crossing Columbine without an issue. For 14 years, they've been driving around Ridge, with the exception of 4 families with little kids that need to be chased down and mangled or something. The problem is, all of this is due to those families with the kids, is my perception. That are letting their children drive carts underage.
Hey, in Pleasant Hill last week, there was a death on a golf cart. 4 18-year-old kids, 2 sitting forward, 2 sitting backward in a cul-de-sac going 13 miles an hour. When the driver turned in the cul-de-sac and the backseat passenger wasn't paying attention, fell off, hit his head and died. That's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to work to present. I don't care if it's 1 kid or 50 kids.
What about car accidents that happen on a routine basis? People die in car accidents all the time.
Yeah,
I'm
but
confused.
carts aren't designed to be on a city street, on a public street. Yeah, and I see both sides of it. I agree with what Jack is saying. Okay. I also don't like blue laws. We used to call them blue laws. I don't know if they still call them that now or not. It's an ordinance you pass to look good, but you never enforce it. Right? I never liked them because as soon as something bad happens, somebody's going to be on you because you didn't enforce that law. And the person they usually got on was, ta-da, the police chief, right? Why aren't you enforcing this law? Doggone it, right? So I don't really care for blue laws. That would be for us to pass something, make us feel good. But not be able to enforce it and not be workable. And I'd rather try to figure out a way to get at what Jackie's talking about, which is stupidity on the streets, right? And
I agree with that.
it's tough to outlaw, right? It really is. But we should be able to figure out a way to do that. And I think what the chief's looking at, he's looking at trying to limit this in a positive way by saying, okay, here's how you could do it, right? You could be a licensed driver. You could do all these things the state requires.
And that's what the golf courses require as well. There's nothing new here on that.
Well, there is.
What is?
Flags and slow moving
Flags.
vehicles.
No, not the flags and that. No, we'll just be laughing stocks if we put that up. That's fine. I'm talking about licensed drivers. That's currently the rules, currently the law.
But how?
None of that's changing.
Okay. Jim, do we look at maybe an ordinance that allows golf carts to cross the streets if they're a licensed driver, but doesn't allow them to be driven?
They're not allowed to be driven if you're an unlicensed driver.
I think that that's what this ordinance does. Is, I mean, are you wanting?
Can we do that without the slow moving vehicle sign and the flag?
Not,
No.
the Iowa code says that we can authorize the driving of golf carts
On the streets
on public streets. So that means whether
versus
it's,
incidental
that means-
crossing.
well, it's still driving on the streets. I mean, if you know, if there was a drunk driver backing out of one driveway and going into the other driveway across the street, that'd be an incidental crossing, but it'd still be OWI. You know, it is stupid. I
We'll
don't
be able to be
disagree with you.
We'll be able to be we'll
Can-
have
can
our
we-
pictures
can
of
we
our
take-
golf carts on the magazine, golf magazines nationwide. It's so moronic.
I will say that if council asks me to come back with a different draft without a sunset, sunrise, and red flag and warning sign provision, I can do that. And then
That would be great.
I'd like to find a
So,
different way.
does the police need a specific ordinance in order to stop children from driving down the middle of the road and hanging off the sides and the top and doing all these things because they're not licensed? They shouldn't be in the road. The golf carts aren't allowed in the street. Is it necessary to go through this ordinance process?
That's a good question, Jeremy. Well, the answer is yes and no. And that's the main-
Keith, can you speak up a little bit? I can't hear you.
Yes, ma'am. The main problem is that better?
Yes, thank you.
The main problem is that we have a golf course community and people own golf carts and can't get to the golf course without breaking the law. It is what it is. So to make it so that those people don't break the law when they're using their property in the manner it was intended, we have to come up with a way to let them get there. That's the main purpose of this. The side product is the fact that we have golf courses that cross the street and that there are code sections that the legislature requires us to meet. So we could, I'm guessing, I'll ask Jim's opinion, create an ordinance that says it's illegal for a person in Norwalk to operate a golf cart who doesn't have a license. That's not saying anything about the street. That just says you can't drive one if you're not 16 with a license. Right? On the golf course, in the yard, anywhere. We could do that, I think. I defer to Jim. But that doesn't solve the problem of a person on Coneflower Circle who wants to go play golf. They'd have to push their cart to get to the course.
We can't designate a crossing site. We can't do that.
That's
It'd
the
be a
problem.
violation of the state.
Well, and we've talked about that, but I mean, everybody in the Ridge, half the people would have a crossing site then, because only half the people live on the side of the road where the golf cart is, or where the path is. The other half, I mean, let's.
Yeah, the whole street would be a crossing site.
Well, yeah, I mean, you asked us, it's stupid. I'm not arguing that it's, you know, I'm not trying to advocate this, but this, if we want to if we're stirring the pot, we're saying we need to change our legislation and fix this, I mean, you,
We
we're not
need to
gonna
talk-
present,
Okay, all right,
we're
all
not
right.
gonna present you a draft ordinance that is not in
Talk to
compliance
Julie
with the
No,
state
that-
state of
that's-
Iowa.
Talk to Julian and Steve.
That's not impossible for us to bring up some proposed legislation at the state. I mean, if we collectively agree that it doesn't make sense and there's already cities doing that, maybe we could propose some legislation at the
I mean,
state level.
Yeah, but maybe as the code section, I have it up right here and it says that cities can authorize golf carts, as long as it's not over, on a highway, state highway. And it says the golf carts shall be equipped with a slow moving vehicle sign and a bicycle safety flag and operate on the streets only from sunrise to sunset. I mean, we didn't make that up. That's
Right. Oh,
That's the code
we
section.
understand that.
Driving down, operating on the street, not crossing the street.
Yeah,
I mean,
Right.
I'm not trying to drive down the street, I'm just trying.
I know.
So in the meantime,
But as soon as you're on the street, you're on the street.
in the meantime,
You're operating on the street.
while we lobby,
Well, if I get T-boned, they're not gonna see the flag or the slow moving vehicle sign anyway.
That is very true.
It's,
Again, it's.
in the meantime, while we do our lobbying efforts.
Yeah.
Is there anything that would prevent the police chief from leaning into this situation with children and operating carts on the street?
If the council,
We promote that.
yes.
You know, I remember, okay, when a juvenile driving a car, right, he'd impound a frickin' car. The parents would pay for the impound. It's $100. Then you take the kid down to the office. You'd write the ticket. The parent had to come and countersign that ticket to get the kid out of the office. Okay, now that happened maybe once, right? Because the parents, then it became important to them, right? Because it cost them money and it cost them time. And Johnny being stupid got their attention, right? Right now, Johnny being stupid, with the luck of the draw, maybe he'll get home before mom and dad do, right? And I'm not telling you, I mean, I'm not giving you a direction, right? I'm just one
You're
councilman.
not telling me anything I hadn't thought of already.
All right. But anyway, my point, Mayor, is that, maybe instead of passing this ordinance, okay, we go do some lobbying, right? And in the meantime, we lean into this. And perhaps different application on the consequence of it, maybe it'll begin to deter things. I don't know. But I agree with Jackie. It's stupid. Somebody's going to get hurt bad.
There's only about 4 communities, golf communities, that allow golf carts to go to the course like what we have. And that's the main reason why the Ridge and Echo Valley is such a big draw. Glen Oaks is one, Briarwood is one, Copper Creek is
Are
also.
those all private roads?
No. Glen Oaks is.
Glen Oaks is.
Glen Oaks is a private
But
road, yeah.
I think this is an example of a fine idea that people didn't think consequence through at the time, right? And some of those former council members are good friends of mine. I have a lot of respect for them. But sometimes you can have a good idea without thinking through consequence, and that may have happened.
All right, thank you.
Anybody want to say anything else on it? We're going to lobbying to get state law adjusted, maybe a line in there that says incidental.
Yeah,
street
some way to
crossings
let
for-
us
or-
designate crossing.
Yes,
Something.
if you're gonna do that, I would suggest maybe you contact the owners, say, of Echo Valley. And maybe get them to weigh on that, because the consequence to them is that they're not gonna be able to operate golf carts.
And you're also gonna
well, they
see,
can't now. You can't now. Legally, you cannot.
That's the point.
Right. but that's
Legally,
the
you
point.
cannot.
So-
Right, okay,
so-
gotcha.
And legacy's the same.
yeah, it'll affect legacy. too. I was just gonna say that.
Legacy's got 3 crossings, the same as Echo.
Right,
Right.
so maybe they're waiting.
Copper Creek's got about-
Maybe Otter Creek, maybe contact those other golf courses and say, hey.
And maybe, maybe the owners of Echo Valley there's probably a lot of them around that they could talk to.
Golf
Yeah.
association.
Yeah.
I wonder if those people have any opinions on fireworks.
That's not on.
You had
the
to go there,
agenda.
What's the next item?
And then PD is going to keep an eye out
Yeah, kind of lean into it a little bit.
and lean into it a little bit to start writing tickets.
Kids, right?
Okay, cool. All right. Moving on. Item 5, welcome guests and public comment. We'll go give you a 3-minute time limit. This time to address council on non-agenda items. We can't take action on these tonight since they're not on the agenda. Also, if you'd like to comment on any item in the consent agenda, now would be the time. Any takers? Seeing none, we will move on. Item 6, we do have a proclamation that's in the packet tonight for Park and Recreation Month of July 2022. So they get a whole month.
Wow. We
Yeah.
just got a week of it.
All right. Item 7 is consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have June 2nd, 2020, approved the June 2nd, 2022 minutes of the regular city council meeting. We have expenditures, tax abatements, cigarette, tobacco, nicotine, and vapor permit applications for fiscal year 2023. We have resolution setting July 7th, 2022 for a public hearing regarding a zoning amendment to change 10 acres south of Bluebell Drive and east of Timberview Drive from AR Agricultural Reserve to R170 Single Family Residential. Let's see, we have a resolution appointing Carson Forst to the Norwalk Planning and Zoning Commission. We have a resolution approving IEDA Destination Iowa grant application for Norwalk Central. We have a resolution approving an agreement with Municipal Collections of America to provide collection services for Norwalk municipal debts. We have a resolution authorizing the purchase of a policy management system through NeoGov. We have a resolution approving pay estimate number 7 to SM Hintages and Sons Incorporated for Northwest Service Area Trunk Sewer Extension Project. We have a resolution to approve pay estimate number 2 to Sternquist Construction for Sunset Drive, Highway 28 and North Avenue Intersection Improvements Project. We have a resolution appointing Stephanie Opel to the Park and Rec Advisory Commission effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. We have monthly reports and correspondence. Can I get a motion?
Second.
I'm going to give it to Ed. Motion by Rivas, seconded by Cool. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Item 8, we have old and new business for consideration, discussion, and possible action. We have item A is resolution approving sponsorship agreement with Sportsman Solutions LC for Norwalk Central Sports Campus. So Holly, Luke, and Jim have been working hard along with Mike Mahoney from Sportsman Solutions to get the sponsorship ready for council. Holly, Luke, or Jim, I'll let you guys take it from here.
Go ahead.
So we probably had, I don't know, 12 iterations of this agreement, and we did have Robin's input as well and Jackie's, at least on the first probably 4 versions. And it came down to just some kind of finite details that we just wanted to make sure were clarified in this agreement so that there weren't any issues in the future, especially, you know, as people kind of change out over the years and things like that. So we feel we've covered every possible aspect that could come up. We think it's a pretty clear agreement in terms of how the commissions get split out, how the payments will work. Luke asked that we add in there a clause for performance. So that way, if the city feels like this group isn't, you know, working hard enough to get the sponsors or the donors, that we could go back to the agreement or go back to the table and basically have an out if we need to. So we added that in. Luke or Jim, do you guys have any other pieces that were newer that we kind of added in maybe over that last 2 or 3 agreements that we felt would be important for council?
One of the things that I wanted to point out was more of the kind of the process or procedure. Let me see if I can find it. I had some discussions with Gene, our finance director, about the process of receiving funds. The concern was that the initial draft appeared that all the funds were going to funnel through the city, and then we were going to have to split out the dollars on who receives what. And we felt that that was kind of clunky and put a lot of extra work on our staff. We felt like we're paying a fair amount for the amount of work that they're doing for bringing in these sponsorships, which is great, because I don't believe that's a specialty of our staff. So this is a great partnership, but we felt like sportsmen should be doing all the organization, putting together any invoices or reports that show us, here are the sponsorships, here are the dollars we received, here's your portion, with billing that accurately reflects all those dollars. We also wanted to make sure that we understood what net revenue meant. We wanted to make sure that we weren't paying that 25% plus paying for labor on top of that. We want to make sure that that's if they have to do some special signage. If some big organization says, hey, I want to sponsor the whole building, if there has to be large banners or new signs constructed as part of their sponsorship, that's part of the cost that would come out from those net revenues, not their labor costs. Hey, we spent 10 hours working with this potential sponsor. We're going to take that out of your cost. That makes sense.
And basic marketing and things like that would be considered part of their normal work package. And then the physical things that would come with a donor or sponsorship, like Luke said, actual signage or something that comes with that, what that sponsor is purchasing, then we would all understand, and it would be in that listed sponsor agreement that whatever 5,000 of the 1 million went to, construct a sign for whatever business.
So the 3 items, A, B, and C, that for the most part starts to outline what those reports would have to look like, or any invoicing. Another key part of this, many times sponsorships aren't just a one-time dollar amount. It's usually over a longer period. They focus that mostly those sponsorships would probably be 10-year commitments. As a city government, we have discomfort doing long-term contracts. So we were really focused on just a 5-year contract, or even a 3-year. They wanted to go longer. So there's some, you guys may have to remind me what section that was. But it specifically outlines that we are going to do the 5-year.
It's on page 12 under terms and fees.
Yeah, it's on. Yeah.
There it is.
That we would talk about it, negotiate after 4 years to finish out that 5-year with them.
There's also a section in here that if there is a long-term commitment, let's say a 10 or a 15-year that they lock in, but we only do a 5-year, let's say after 5 years, we just say, no, we don't want to continue this. There would be a requirement for us to continue to provide them their cost share for that remaining 5 or 10 years, whatever it might be. I feel like those were really the key items that we went through. Jim, did you have anything else?
I think one more, if you just scroll up a little bit more on this, where it talks about 75% with exclusive sponsorships. One of the concerns that was voiced when this was first discussed by council is the play between the shared sponsorships versus the exclusive sponsorships, in that, obviously if they have a potential big sponsor, and if they suddenly made it shared, the city would only get 25% of the revenue. But if it was exclusive, the city would get 75% of the revenue. There is a little bit of a conflict there, in that if they want, there could be occasions where the people selling it are making more money by making it shared versus making it exclusive. And I don't think we can eliminate that risk completely, but if you look at the wording that's highlighted there, we made it clear that when we're looking at sponsorships and considering exclusive versus shared, that our primary concern and our primary goal is to maximize our revenue.
Councilman David Lester brought this up. It was at that March meeting. David, we actually went back and rewatched that YouTube video of the section where you were inquiring with Mike when he was here about that sponsorship, what it meant. We felt like that question was going to come up again, so we wanted to make sure we fully understood and included that language here. So David, I don't know if that's something you still keyed on, or if that answers your question from way back in March.
So no, my yes and no. I guess I'm fine with whatever's there, but my issue with it more is that Mike Mahoney is in 3/4 of the sponsorship, and so when we're getting 25%, he said they were being split evenly, and kept saying 3 ways at that meeting, but there were 4 entities involved, and he's involved in 3 of the 4 entities, and maybe that was my issue of conflict in this, is that he's got a bigger incentive to push things, one way or the other. And I guess I still don't like that part of it, if that makes sense. There is no workaround for that. I mean, there isn't a good, it just isn't, it's a conflict, and I don't know that I like it. I'd rather have seen a third party group that was doing the sponsorships that he wasn't involved with, maybe.
David, I will say that we, as staff, we discussed that very point, and this language was the best we could come up with. The only other thing I could say that might give you some comfort, because he is involved, maybe there's that much more push because of that interest to help push for these sponsorships to be as lucrative as possible. I don't know that gives complete comfort, but.
And during
another
the
angle.
Conversations, because we brought that up to Mike as well, and during those conversations, it made a little bit more sense to me. And I understand that, his group's related to Sportsman who's doing the work on this. But the 25%, so even though it's split out that way, where it's, 4 chunks of percentage there going out to different entities, but the 25% that's going to Sportsman is to do the physical work of going out and getting these sponsorships. So the rest is commission. So that would be split out to, the people whose property it's on. So I feel like that gives me a little bit more comfort that it's not 25% just going back to Sportsplex to do something fun with that money. It's literally paying these people to go out and do this work. And it is a lot of work. So that was just a note.
No, and I agree. I'm just telling you that was my concern, and still is there, but that's never going to go away with this agreement, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. So,
Jim, were there any other?
I guess.
things? Sorry, David.
I just had one question on it, and it's a bit of a form thing, and maybe this is all of our contracts, but it's the when notice is given to the city. I try to remember a city went to Holly at the Economic Development Department, and so maybe this is me asking, does it make sense for that to be like the mayor or city manager, or is that other than the Economic Development Department? I just don't want it to get hung up in a place that doesn't really necessarily need to be, if there's a legal issue that they're presenting.
That did come up. I put myself in there as the alternate. Well, we actually put city manager, his or her designee, as the alternate. If that's something, if council prefers that be number 1, I don't think it makes a difference to Sportsman. We just want to make sure we've got an easy contact.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking going forward in all of our contracts, that should consistently be one person. It doesn't necessarily need to be the public works director or this person or this person. We should just pick one and move forward with all of them that way. That was an aside. It had nothing really to do with this contract beyond.
Okay.
I don't know.
I agree. It probably should be city manager, because that's going to be the most consistent over time.
And he needs something else to do.
Well, I was going to say, actually, city clerk would be. Sorry, Lindsay.
I know, I'm just waiting.
Well, I think the reason that was in there is because we asked for the right to review every sponsor name or sponsorship contract as they come in. So we didn't want to be bogging down other people. So that way, if it's something simple, like if it's a $500 sponsorship and it's just to put a name on a basketball hoop, I can talk to Robin. We can internally agree that that's okay. But if it's a $50,000 sponsorship, we're going to send it to Luke and the mayor to review it and make sure that they're okay with it. So that's kind of where we just wanted to take that lower level of stuff off of someone else's plate. But yeah, we don't care who it goes to, I guess. It'll get forwarded to me anyway, I'm sure. Like,
absolutely.
some level.
We can make that adjustment. I don't think that's a big deal. It is, if there's a council's comfortable with that.
I mean, it's always best unless you, to not have a specific name, just leave it generic, just in case you win the lottery.
will work.
Even if I want a lot.
We just need an email that's maybe generic, because I think that's where we got hung up on the names. We had to have an email address in there.
Yeah. We can put in a name and email address.
Okay.
Jim, was there anything else that we missed that you wanted to key on?
I don't think so, as long as everyone understands the splits on the fees and everything, and it's pretty self-explanatory there.
I thought it looked pretty good to me.
Other comments, questions?
It's gonna be a little bit different than the concession, so when you see the concession contract, the splits of fees are gonna be a little bit different.
That would be a lot simpler. The concession one.
Any public comment? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion.
Second.
There you go.
I'll do that. I'm gonna do that. Motion by Lester, seconded by Livingston. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Riva,
Yes.
Cool,
Yeah.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8B is removed from table the consideration of the first reading of an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Norwalk, Iowa by rezoning land south of West Beardsley Street from AR Agricultural Reserve to the Hackney Hills Planned Unit Development. So the next item about the Hackney Hills PUD was tabled at a previous meeting. So can I get a motion to remove that item
Motion.
from the table? Motion by Baker, seconded by Riva.
There you
So
go.
would you call roll?
Councilmember Riva,
Yes.
Cool,
Yeah.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8C is the first reading of an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Norwalk, Iowa by rezoning land south of West Beardsley Street from AR Agricultural Reserve to the Hackney Hills Planned Unit Development. So I believe the developer's been working with the residents in the area to get something designed that's going to work for everyone. Luke, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Before I dive into quick, on the dais before the council in the room, and then Jackie and David, I emailed this to you at the start of the meeting. So if you haven't.
Thank you.
Okay. Jim and I talked this morning, and he suggested a quick rewrite of parcel A based on some things, but I'll cover that in a minute. But I just wanted to let everybody know that was on the table and in your email inboxes. So correct, this was tabled a couple meetings ago. Jerry's Homes went back and did some revisions, met with staff, met with neighbors, and feel like they have a pretty good compromise for everyone. The main thing that this revision does is move additional townhomes from parcel B to the east along the Beardsley frontage, and then move the proposed condo product from parcel A back farther into the development, basically one lot deep. So getting that off there. There also was some changes just generally to the different single family parcels. There's no longer 55-foot lot widths. Everything's either 50 for parcel D, 65 for parcel E, or 70 for parcel F. So it reduced the overall density a little bit by cutting down some of the smaller lots and just focusing them on that initial entry road in parcel D. I did want to note this PUD going forward has parcel A, which has a kind of unique condo product that's being proposed on there. We have determined, staff and council at the last meeting determined that proposal could go forward in this PUD without a comprehensive plan amendment change. So we've determined that product type at the density level proposed meets the intention of our medium density land use category. So I just want to make a point to make sure we were clarified on that. And then to the parcel A change that I made this morning was really related to that fact. Give me 1 second while I pull my version of it up somewhere, one of these. What did I do with it? I may have deleted it.
Is this what you want shown?
If I sent you the email as well, Luke, it's just the changes to the text of parcel A.
This?
Yep. So, yeah, and I can read off the screen there. Perfect. Talking with Jim this morning, he thought our rezoning of this would be more defensible if we called it R3 medium density residential instead of R4 like the PUD was originally written. So what we've done here is changed it to an R3 parcel to allow that condo product to be built there, though we did have to add an additional allowed use, which is multifamily dwelling buildings that include dwelling units that are vertically and horizontally attached. So a condo building. We still have the bulk regulation requirements that have a maximum of 2-story, 35-foot height building, as well as the side-to-side separation of 50-foot retained. And then we did, under the additional requirements, a minor thing that was discussed at the last council meeting that we talked about this was the language that said there shall be a minimum of 1 garage space available for every 2 of 3 units. Jerry's Homes had mentioned that their intention was just to follow our standard city code as it relates to garages. So that language has been just copy and pasted out of our code into that section. So that's what the change was that Jim and I worked through this morning. I've sent that off to Jerry's Homes. They were good with that as well. Functionally, it doesn't change what's allowed there. It just makes it work better with our comprehensive plan. And then Luke, if you go back to the map, just real quick, just again to demonstrate the parcel A's moved back on Welsh Avenue and is along Plainside Avenue, and Beardsley Street now has the frontage of parcel B townhome lots. So those were really the big functional changes that came out of the discussions that Jerry's Homes has had with the neighbors and then ultimately with city as well.
Questions, discussion from council?
God, I appreciate him sitting down and working with the neighbors. And I appreciate the conversation with the neighbors as well as the developer. And my opinion is that this resolves the conflict situation. And that's what the neighbors voiced to me when I talked to them. I think it fits in good. I think the fact that the requirements on those condominiums are really no different than the requirements on the townhomes. I mean, the same height, everything's gonna blend. And I think given the cost of housing today and moving forward, this probably gives us the best shot at trying to come up with affordable housing and a variety of housing we can offer. You know, I tell you what, I've had conversations out on the golf course both ways. People have come up to me, you know, right? Because they hear the word condominium and they're thinking, here comes this monster building, right? I mean, it's going to be like, and so I think, you know, and I try to explain to them that it's an appearance, right? It's going to look very similar to those townhomes that we've been allowing, right? Anyway, so that's kind of where I'm coming from, and myself, I would like to see this move forward. I think it's in the city's best interest to do that. That's where I'm coming from.
All right. Anybody else? Any public comment?
Sorry, Mayor. So I just want to make sure I didn't miss it. There's still no planned storm shelter or basements in these condominiums, correct?
I think the developer had some thoughts on that when I talked to him. I don't, do you want to comment on it?
Yeah. Adam Grubb, 3900 West Town Parkway, West Des Moines. Mr. Mayor, council members, appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. You know, speaking directly to that, what I have our team working on is offering some opportunity for a customer to be able to pay to install a storm shelter in the row homes. I don't see there being an option in the condominium. But it would be our intent to try to find a vendor that would offer something that if a customer found that we would promote that we'd have that in the sales center. And we'd present that to everybody that wanted to have that opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Yep. And then I guess I just speak to it really quick. Certainly have had a lot of conversations with the neighbors as we came out of the last meeting. We spent about an hour after this, and it's certainly our goal to be a good neighbor. We want to be a good developer community. It worked out really well. I think that we found a nice solution to be able to offer the condos, but then have the streetscape of Beardsley, I think, really be protected in that sense. It is also worth noting that the front elevations that face Beardsley are the more architectural side of the building. So it is the front entrance to the homes. We had some discussion on the 5-foot side yards, kind of the approach that we took. There's, I believe, 111 plus 30. So, I mean, there's roughly whatever, call it 140 single family lots. And so about a third of those, 34 of them, the ones with the 5-foot side yards. So those remain limited to the front in parcel D. And then parcel E is really your 65 footers and 70 footers. We want to take advantage of the park and the trail and make that look as good as we can. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, can I get a motion to approve first reading of the ordinance?
Motion.
Wait, oh, go ahead, come on up.
Good evening, Les Bruner, 559 Beardsley. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council. Just wanted to let you know, I was part of the committee that met with Adam after the meeting from a couple sessions ago. We did have a nice conversation. We, as a neighborhood group, kind of followed that up amongst ourselves, looking for a compromise on what we felt that we could live with, so to speak. And then Adam did his revision, and we've looked that over. We met Tuesday, looked it over. I guess as part of the neighborhood committee, we look at this as a compromise. Of course, it's not exactly what we wanted, but we don't have the ability to say, you can't do that across the street from our house. We have to live with what the council decides. So, but we feel like this is something that is going to look okay across the street. There's a setback that we can live with. We're in hopes. We've had some discussion that whoever moves forward with this project, we're assuming it's going to be Adam and Jerry's homes. But if for some reason that would change, maybe, for whatever reason, this economic situation, who knows what might happen, but that the council will make sure that it does continue to fit this format that we've all kind of agreed on, and hopefully that if things do change, that somehow we could be notified that there may be a possible change, so that we might come back in and maybe have some say in possible changes that might take place in the future. One other thing we discussed about in the meetings is, and in our arguments, was the Beardsley Corridor. And, you guys, I know you've got plans for that, but, one of the things that we talked about is potentially when the city plan was developed maybe 5 years ago, that the Beardsley project might have been, well, we're going to do that maybe 2 years from now or 3 years from now. And with all this new development that's taking place out there, we're in hopes that maybe that might need to possibly be looked at. And instead of being 3 years from now, it maybe needs to be 2 years from now. Or if it was 2 years, maybe we need to look at it again in a year. I know the potential fix for the Beardsley Corridor and eliminating some of that traffic is the eventual development of the properties behind or to the south of that, and having other arteries. But this development is going to take place a lot quicker than the development towards the south. And so I think we're going to see within the next couple of years potentially come to fruition what we've talked about. And you may hear from not just the people on Beardsley, but everybody that uses Beardsley about the possible congestion that might come into play in the near future. So thank you for your time in the last couple of meetings, and we appreciate the opportunity to come in and have a resolution with the quality of our neighborhood. So
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You bet. Any questions that I can?
Mayor, I have a comment for last. It's somewhat of a, I shouldn't call it a race, but that's what comes to mind between North Avenue and Beardsley. Right now, North Avenue seems to have a slight lead between Timber Ridge and Blooming Heights and Sunset Estates. So as the development on Beardsley starts to happen, and if it does occur quicker, those traffic counts, I would imagine, Public Works Director unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, but I think I'd be speaking effectively for him to say those traffic counts, when we go back and review that, probably in the next year or two, that's going to be a major driving factor of which one happens first.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're probably going to see people right now trying to avoid North Avenue. And so they're using Beardsley. Possibly when North Avenue gets restructured, maybe some of that cut through traffic coming down 50th to Beardsley might maybe go back to North Avenue. And
I bet it will, because we're going to tear up that interchange down there on Beardsley.
yeah, that's going to be a problem, right? But and then also the
You're bad house guest. Oh, I'm sorry. I know.
Wonder if she's okay.
sounded like
So sorry, thought I was muted.
the development of the streets, hopefully once County Line Road gets done, and then with Solterra now being open again, that helps a lot. So, but again, thank you to all the council members.
Thanks.
Mayor, I have one question. Is the trail 10 foot going through there? I know Jason asked earlier.
No, I'm sorry.
Yes. Adam Grubb, 3900 Westtown Parkway. I think when we had our meeting with Parks and Rec and staff, Luke, do you recall? I think that was a key conversation, that trail was 10 foot.
Yep.
It was, and I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, that was my
That
takeaway.
change was staying. Yeah, just the park. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
The one other thing I did want to offer for consideration, certainly the, measure twice, cut once. It was our hope to be thoughtful in this process, certainly with the 3 readings. I know the city of Norwalk typically would take all 3 readings. I just asked for the consideration after the second reading, if we are in agreement this evening, and in the second reading, if there'd be a potential to waive that third reading, as I feel like we've really done a lot of that legwork over the last month to really, I think, meet the spirit of why we'd have the 3 readings. And so I just asked for that consideration.
Okay. Any other public comment?
How can I make a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to move approval.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so I got a motion by Cool, seconded by Baker. Any further discussion? Hearing none, can I get a motion? Or can I? Yeah. Lindsay, would you call roll?
I will.
Wow.
Councilmember Cool,
Where am I?
Yeah.
Livingston,
No.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Thanks, everybody for collaborating and getting something going. Okay, item,
Glad it got worked out.
yes. Item 8D is public hearing on a proposal to enter into a general obligation loan agreement. So we'll open up the public hearing at 7:28 PM. So the city's going to sell bonds, which is the city's way of borrowing money to work on our capital improvement projects. Listed in the resolution resolution are the projects that we're going to be working on. Gene Kelly, I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, Mayor. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yep, we can.
Great. I have the projects listed. They're a little over 18.5 million. With issuance costs, we're going to probably land at about 18.9 million. We had a due diligence call today with PFM and Dorsey Whitney to do the final edits to the preliminary official statement. Thank you all for your review and suggestions. They were great. Appreciate your time and effort. We incidentally with S&P did not require a credit rating call because nothing material changed since our last issue in December of 2021. So, I believe our take on that is our AA rating will stand, double A rating stable, will maintain. So we'll be good there. The S&P rating will come out with what they will rate us at, which of course I just said. And then the printing of the official statement will probably come out on the 24th. And then finally, the sale date is set for July 7th. With that, if you have any questions, please let me know.
All right, Lindsay, have we received any oral or written comments on this item?
We have not.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close public hearing at 7:30 PM. Item 8E is resolution taking additional action on a proposal to enter into a general obligation loan agreement, combining loan agreements, setting the date for sale of general obligation corporate purpose bonds, series 2022A, and authorizing the use of a preliminary official statement in connection therewith. Just had a public hearing on this item. Gene, you got anything to add?
I do not. Thank you.
All right, any discussion, questions, comments from council?
Ton of work on this project right here, just in the accumulation of this report, so.
Yeah, for sure. Any public comment? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Cool, second by Baker. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Livingston,
Yes.
Husker,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8F is public hearing regarding the Iowa 28 traffic signalization improvement project. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing at 7:31 PM. The city's going to work on connecting all of the traffic signals along Highway 28 in an effort to better time the signals, which should greatly help traffic flow. Luke, you got anything?
No.
Extra since Way's not here?
No, but we have a representative from Snyder and Associate, Justin.
Yes, sir.
If there's any questions about the project, I believe he can answer those.
Questions?
Yes, I'm sorry, did you have something?
Yeah, sorry. This is regarding just timing of the signals, right? Not regarding adding any additional signalization at this time?
No additional signals. We're just connecting the existing signals to the existing fiber optic network in the city, and coming from Cherry south to Main, so all the signals be connected fiber. This is the first part of a overall project for the signal system in the town. So this is more or less the infrastructure portion of the project. And the second portion of the project will be selection of a central system software that software will be able to, we'll go in there and control the signals. And with the goal to provide progression along Highway 28 and have alerts if there's a issue with any of the signals, that we can address them promptly and reduce delay throughout the corridor and on the side streets.
So
Thank
Jack,
you.
so no new signals, however, if there are additional signals added, which I know you've expressed you would not be happy with that.
But there probably will be.
When?
When, I should.
Right.
the mayor
No, I
can-
understand that part. I understand that. I just wanted to make sure that what we're talking about today is only the timing and not additional signals. I know there's a different discussion, a different day for adding more signals.
Yep.
Okay.
But the infrastructure here would accommodate those additional signals being tied in.
Understood.
Yeah, any additional signals that are constructed in the future will have the potential to be able to add on to the system after we get it constructed.
I have a question for you, and it's mostly ignorance on my part. I'm not real computer savvy. The signal that we eventually are going to put in up at Chatham, I would think we'll probably have an enabler in it for the fire department to be able to switch the lights as they come out of the station. At least I would hope that. Will that affect in some way your sequencing or how?
The emergency vehicle preemption and the signal takes over control of the signal, and that gives priority to however we set the preemption of, and it basically turns off any sort of communication to the other signals, progression of the other signals, and allows that emergency vehicle to proceed through that signal. And then if there's any other preemptions along a corridor, as they get to an next signal, that preemption will take over control, give them priority to get through the signal.
Oh, okay.
And
So
then
you,
at the termination of the preemption for the emergency vehicle, it'll go back into the normal operation of where it would have been at if there wasn't the emergency vehicle preempting the signal.
all right, thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, so Lindsay, have we received any oral or written comments on this?
We have not.
Any other public comment on it?
How soon will they be done?
Wow, Mark spoke up.
Commented.
That is a great question. Just like anything else, we are experiencing the signal equipment world, giant fluctuations in lead time. So you'll notice later in the contract that the late start date is July of 2023. We're at currently a 50-60 week lead time on fiber. So I would imagine as soon as they can get the equipment in, they'll install it, but it may be a while before they get equipment.
So hopefully before 25 or.
You might have to just take a run up and down the highway here.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:35 PM. Item 8G is a resolution approving, excuse me, approving and confirming plan specifications, form of contract and estimate of cost for the Iowa 28 traffic signalization improvement project. So we just discussed the project and to help synchronize the traffic lights along Highway 28. This is first of 3 resolutions needed to get the construction started. You got anything to add?
No.
Any discussion or questions, Cut?
I bet Jackie would really like to move this.
I think Baker already did. Maybe Jackie would like to second it.
I'd be happy to second it. Thanks for including me.
Okay, so got a motion from
Brian.
Baker, second from Livingston. Whew. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
All right, item 8H is a resolution awarding contract for the Iowa 28 traffic signalization improvement project. This is the second resolution to get the signalization project going. This resolution awards a contract to Iowa Signal Incorporated. Anything to add? Wayne? I say,
Oh, sorry, no, nothing to add. God, I'm taking this one for Wayne. Sorry.
all right. Any questions, discussion from council? Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Rivas, seconded by Baker. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Everything's on video.
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8I, is resolution approving contract and bond for the Iowa 28 traffic signalization improvement project. So this is the third and final resolution to get the signalization project started. This approves the contract with Iowa Signal Incorporated and indicates how the city is going to pay for the project. Anything to add?
No.
Awesome. All right. Any other discussion from council?
This was done in the proper sequence, just like the signals.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Okay.
All right. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Cool, seconded by Reba. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Reba,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Once again,
Yes.
that.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes. All right, motion carries. Item 8J. Thank you for coming in and explaining everything. Yep. Item 8J is resolution approving the site plan of Norwalk Central Sports Complex. So this is the site plan for both the sportsplex site and the city's building with parking. Luke, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is, there's really two parts of this. So I don't want to glaze over the first part too much. We are doing a preliminary plat and a site plan. So the first, rather the second page of the combined site plan prelim plat document is that the actual lot layout of the prelim plat. It includes the lot that is lot 1 for the Heartland sports fields. So you recall we approved a site plan a couple meetings back for that area. Lot 2 is for our city facility and the parking related to that and the drive that connects out on the north side. Lot 3 is for the Sportsplex building, its parking and the other driveway. And then lot 4 is an empty lot right now that would be for a future development of a future building. So that's the prelim plat. Then the site plan itself, again, is our city building on the west side of the site and the Sportsplex shell building on the south side of the site. The parking is conjoined, so there is kind of shared parking in that large parking lot. And then a smaller but still substantial parking lot to the south of the Sportsplex building. And that coupled with the parking that we approved with the the Heartland sports fields gets us right around the 500 parking stalls that we were hoping to get for the entire sports complex in totality. Also additional on-street parking with the previous approved site plan also helps with that number as well. So other than that, it's pretty much meets what we expected it to. I think we've all seen various concepts of this at various times, and we've spent some time to make sure we've got all of our codes lined up with it. And I think we're ready to move forward.
Right. Any discussion or comments, questions from council?
So all the stuff to the north, right? Like the bike path and all that, you know, and the other building, that'll all come in as a separate, or we'll deal with that on another day as a separate parcel.
Yeah, I believe the trail they're building as part of their improvements with everything else. And then, yeah, and the stuff to the north, the concepts we've seen with that'll come through with other plats and other development plans and site plans as they come in. I guess a key to note with the trail that, thank you for reminding me on that part, Ed, is that our site does, for fire access purposes, utilize a portion of the trail on the north side of where our potential expansion of our building would be to make sure we have that access all the way around the building. So it is important that that trail gets put in.
Okay. Yeah.
Luke, can you confirm, Ryan asked me about this structure here. Is that the concession / restrooms?
No, the concessions restrooms is the smaller. I think that's the shade structure for that area. I think the concessions is closer to.
That's the concession building.
Is that the concession building?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's concession building.
It is, okay.
Yep, it's labeled if you really zoom in.
That's where you get your refreshments at Baker.
Got it.
And I know we'd have some discussions too about maybe some kind of a little bermed area, you know, to try to
Yes.
take care of the sound. and
Yep,
that.
all of that we included in the site plan for the Hackney Hill, or not, the Heartland, too many projects.
Too many developments, huh?
Yeah, to that point, and all of those landscaping things were as part of that site plan for that. This one is just everything with our Norwalk Central project has had a little bit of out of orderness just to keep things moving. So this one is getting that lot finally assigned a lot. It was split as part of a plan survey earlier. We needed to have a lot created for it at some point. So this is just doing that as part of the work for the rest of the sports complex.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? or public comment? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve that resolution?
Motion.
Motion by Cool, seconded by Reva. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Oh, yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8K, second reading of an ordinance amending chapter 177 rates and fees, providing for amended water, sewer, and solid waste charges. All the fees that we charge are contained in an ordinance, and for this change, we're going to increase water and sewer utility, garbage, and recycling rates. Gene, you got anything to add?
I have no new information since the first reading. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any discussion, questions, comments from council? Or public comment? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve second reading?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Rivas, seconded by Baker. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Livingston,
I'm wondering what the hell.
Yes.
Marshall's like.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, motion carries. Item 8L, second reading of an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Norwalk regarding swimming pool enclosures. So this is changing ordinance to require pools to have a fence installed around it. So at the last meeting, council asked to exclude decorative ponds, that kind of thing. So staff has amended the definition of a pool as a body of water intended for swimming or bathing. Luke, anything to add?
That covers it.
All right, any discussion, question to council
Bathing.
or public comment? Okay, I got a motion
Second.
by Reba, seconded by Baker. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Lester,
No.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Cool,
Walk and eat it compared to being
Yes.
safely down the.
Motion carries. Item 8M, second reading of an ordinance amending the legacy PUD within the city of Norwalk, Iowa by allowing patios and decks to encroach into residential side yard setbacks in PUD parcel 1. So we heard about this last meeting. Luke, anything additional to add?
No, sir.
All right, any discussion, questions, or comments, or public comment? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve second reading?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Cool, seconded by Reba. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Because it's.
Lester,
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8N, final reading of an ordinance amending chapter 107, benefited stormwater drainage districts of the Norwalk Municipal Code. So there's clarifications and updates to our existing ordinance that allows the city to establish a stormwater drainage district. This ordinance does not establish a specific district. Luke, anything to add?
So to me, no.
All right. Any discussion, questions for council? Or public comment? I get a motion to approve the final reading?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Cool, seconded by Reva. Lindsay, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Reba,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes. All right, motion carries. Item 8O, final reading of an ordinance establishing the Colonial Parkway Regional Stormwater Drainage District. So this ordinance establishes the district that will feed the stormwater detention pond that's going to be located to the south Capital City Fruit. Luke, Paris, anything to add?
No, sir.
All right, any discussion, question, council? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Reva, seconded by Cool. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Item 8P. First and possibly more readings of an ordinance amending section 41.14 sale of fireworks of the Norwalk Municipal Code. So this ordinance removes all the language surrounding the sale of fireworks, including all the work we put into this 2 or 3 months ago. Luke, anything to add?
The only thing I'd add is we did have some previous language on temporary sales structures, and we decided not to remove that because it wasn't fireworks specific. So we will have that as a tool that we could use if state law does change at some point. We can utilize that without having to do a lot of amendment changes. So.
Okay.
I'm confused on what is the benefit of removing this? If state law does another flip flop, we would already have everything in place that we've already worked hard on getting it through.
Well, I think mainly because the new legislation says we can't have any laws that do that. So I mean, we're getting back to the golf cart argument that we have an ordinance in place that we're just purposely not.
Yeah.
We have to be compliant with state code.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
That may be.
And I guess to clarify, so from some of the stuff we did last time with defining things, so all the stuff we did with zoning, we decided to leave in there and just not be enforcing on it. This was section 41 of our code that talked about some very specific fireworks sale things that we didn't feel were enforceable. So that's what's getting removed. But I do think that if state law did switch around, we would have some zoning tools in place that we could do and use to regulate without needing to come back to you all with a quick change.
All right.
So now you have 2 kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
I put my blinders on when I drive.
Yeah. Any other discussion, questions, comments from council or public comment? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the first reading of this ordinance?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, so I got a motion by Cool, seconded by Livingston. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
No.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba, Cool,
This is a yes vote under duress. So yes.
Yes. Correct.
Okay, motion carries. Would anybody like to make a motion to waive the second and third reading?
I would.
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Livingston, seconded by Cool to waive the second and third reading. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Lester,
Yeah.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba, Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
All right. Motion reluctantly carries.
There you go.
Item 8Q. It's first reading of an ordinance creating a new chapter 89 cross connections and backflow prevention to the Norwalk Municipal Code. You got anything about this?
I think that it's pretty well laid out, but if there's any questions from anybody about that process, what we're going through, Wayne's given a little bit of update on it in the past.
So we're gonna require residences to do this now, right?
Correct.
Okay, and they'll be notified by this company that they
Correct.
have to do it.
Yes. From information from us, helping them identify who should get the notices.
Any other questions? Any public comment? Can I get a motion to approve first reading?
I'll make this motion for a good backflow.
Second.
So I got a motion by Cool, seconded by Livingston. Any further discussion? I don't know why I find that so funny, but I do. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Reba, Cool,
Yeah.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Item 8R is a resolution to approve contract with Backflow Solutions Incorporated to enforce it, right?
Correct.
Okay, any questions or discussion from council? Public comment? Anybody care to make a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Cool. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Reba?
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item-
Yes.
Yes.
That's 2 votes.
Item 8S. Discuss alternate timeline for street improvements, Blue Stem and Prairie Sage. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'll do my best to cover this for both myself and Wayne. I feel fairly confident with this topic because Wayne has, I feel like almost quarterly, he drives me out to these roads. This one, what's shown on the map here is in Echo. This is Blue Stem and Prairie Sage Drive. So it'd be the roadways further to the west. And he also drives me down Golden Valley, which is in Lakewood. Those are 2 of our, I'm gonna say, top 5 worst streets in town. We've had other worse streets and we gradually whittle away at them to rejuvenate those streets. Each time Wayne takes me on a tour of these roads, he says, you know, which one takes higher priority? They're a mess. They both need some major improvements. And for the most part, I've told him that this really has to be an engineer guided because both of them look pretty rough. I had one of our elected officials recommend possibly some video of the streets. And what I did is actually found, it's a tool that's available through Google Street View that you can go back and look at past Street View images. So we pulled up 2 views, one on Prairie Sage from 2011, nice looking street. The same segment from 2021. This one is slightly zoomed back, but those were the best. I mean, just the way Google loads up each view. So you can see the deterioration. I grabbed another section from Blue Stem from 2011. And right away, what looks to be dry on the left side of the street from the right-hand side, you see moisture, water in the gutters that would add to a degrading roadway. So that's from 2011. This is from 2021. Wayne had sent me through text message some pictures of this area, actually down the road next to where that skid steer on the trailer is sitting, where they've tried to do some repair of the curb. And Wayne up front said it went horribly wrong. He sent me some pictures of it. The asphalt in some locations has literally turned to a granular surface all the way down to the sub basins there. So the road is rapidly deteriorating. When I first had this discussion, the reason this came up is a citizen reached out. I've had a couple of elected officials that actually live on the road and they hear from their neighbors on a regular basis. They've reached out to me in the past. This was a citizen that reached out separately to ask me a few questions about it. So I just dug in a little bit deeper with our finance director and public works director. When I sat down with them talking about the timing of when this project was set to take place, where it's at in the CIP, this project is identified for fiscal year 2006. So that puts that out I'm sorry.
Yeah, because otherwise. it
Oh,
would have
okay,
been-
I'm sorry. Yes, fiscal year
We'd have been
26.
congratulating you for taking
Yes.
care of it.
Initially, Gene, our finance director, responded and it said that for us to move it forward to make it happen immediately, we would have to move Golden Valley project back and also take some dollars away from the certified site. The citizen that I spoke with, I told specifically that it would be really hard for me to recommend approval, getting daggers from our economic development director. I explained to the citizen that if it meant not making our investments to grow our certified site, that is where I would have a significant problem. I would not be able to comfortably recommend moving that project up. And he understood that. I felt like the feedback he understood. When I found out that that was the case, to move it forward immediately, initially, the agenda statement had staff recommending status quo, leave it in 26. So I sat down with Gene and Wayne the other day, and we actually pulled up the CIP as it has been proposed. And what we noticed is that there are, because we're talking fiscal year 24, not fiscal year 23. So the initial miscommunication was, and Gene, I think you're still on. If I'm saying this wrong, please interrupt me. That once we talked, go ahead.
No, I'm here.
Okay. So once we talked through it and we said, well, actually, because we're talking about moving it to fiscal year 24, there are some other projects that could be possibly moved back that are outside of those investment projects. So the other projects that we could make adjustments to would be the Highway 28 beautification, the improvements at Serenity Woods, or possibly the Elizabeth Holland Shelter, if we stayed away from our investment projects and allowed Golden Valley to remain where it's at. And I'll just touch quickly on Golden Valley. I also included in the agenda statement some comparisons. This is Golden Valley in 2011 from the same location. What you may be thinking here is it almost looks equally worse in both, which is the case. It has been in poor condition for a lot longer.
Well, Golden Valley was slated for some improvements 2 years ago. And we moved that because what we had laid out for Golden Valley at that point in time was not enough. So we moved a project to a different street.
Right.
I think Golden Valley will get done.
Can I interrupt you for just a minute? With both these projects, now we're seeing the road surface, but obviously we can't see what's underneath it. So I imagine Golden Valley's got some engineering reports already, information. They've looked, somebody's looked, right, by now?
You're saying like an engineering that would
Yeah,
identify?
do we have an idea, I guess?
To my knowledge, neither one of them.
Sewer, what condition that stuff is like underneath the street?
That one's it's a complete rebuild. And then they'll put in, my understanding is they'll put in secondary storm sewer. I don't know about I don't know if they know about any other infrastructure.
Okay.
I do believe you're correct. The design of this would include improved subsurface. If there's stormwater improvements that need to happen adjacent to as part of the engineering, that would happen. If there's some additional hydrants that need to be placed or sanitary sewer work, any of that, if we can tackle those at the same time, we would attempt to do that.
Sure. And the ballpark cost estimates are just that, they're ballpark. So the other streets were ballpark and just the replacement of the street surface. Is that right?
I don't have an answer to that off the top of my head.
No,
I don't
okay.
know that
All right.
I do believe it includes some other storm sewer subsurface. I don't know that either one of these have estimates of some kind of significant sanitary sewer or water line addition.
All right.
But
Thank you.
I don't believe there are any other issues with other utilities other than stormwater in the area. But I can confirm that. That's we believe that's a subsurface drainage issue.
That's what.
So given kind of what we've talked about, just to kind of cut to the quick, staff is recommending that we advance the Blue Stem Prairie Sage project to fiscal year 24. And we would be looking for guidance from council on projects other than the certified site or Golden Valley to make adjustments or to move back. The Highway 28 beautification, as much as we would like to see those the improvements, the visual improvements coming into town. It is, I'm being consistent. It's hard for me to argue appearance over infrastructure. The Elizabeth Holland Shelter, that's a tough one. But Serenity Woods, I don't want to speak for Robin on what, if you have any opinion on the Serenity Woods at 890,000, if that's something that could be pushed back. I did not see a lot of detail in the CIP on specifically what that approximate 900,000 would go for.
That at the time went for trying to put in a drive off of Highway 28 in a small parking lot. Since we have done that, it has grown to trying to come in off of
Delaware.
Yes.
As part of the certified site process.
That's correct.
And we are working through that.
My only issue with Elizabeth Holland is we have to try to figure out some type of a restroom out there. We get lots of calls for restroom. I have put off doing a Kaibo out there. But we do get a few calls.
I think just looking at these, what I would think, right? This is just my opinion. But I think the Highway 28 beautification could wait. And I think the Serenity Woods project, if it had to, could wait. I would be inclined to want to move forward on the Holland Shelter, right? And not mess with the certified side.
So you mentioned that these are estimates.
Right.
According to the best estimates that we have right now.
Right.
Just doing the beautification, moving beautification and Serenity Woods conceivably would cover that cost of the reconstruction of Blue Stem and Prairie Sage.
Yeah, I would like to see the other projects move forward. I mean, I'd like to see these move forward too, if we could do them, but you know, we gotta tighten our belt.
What Ed just said, and just Valley where it is, because they've been waiting a long time for that fix, and it's bad.
Yeah, so if that includes storm.
I did speak, I believe in here, there was, I believe I made mention about that we had planned to do some patching on Blue Stem. I talked to the Assistant Public Works Director today. And we have, to some extent, we have Des Moines Asphalt under contract to do some patching out there. And Public Works is concerned that if we don't do at least something, realizing that I don't think it's a waste, but if we don't do some at least minor patching of that road, when winter comes, gravel is going to be thrown off the streets. I mean, there's sections of it that are in that poor shape. So that just means for us to get the engineering started immediately, we're going to have to pull from probably some from stormwater or from some other contracting areas to at least get that engineering started so that we can get it designed and ready to go to meet this schedule.
And just save money over estimated costs on 2 projects in a row. Can use that savings.
Gene, I'm not going to answer that one. I'll let you answer
Might
that one.
offset future overruns.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, I just, there was a project last meeting that came in under the estimated engineer's cost, and then today's, there was a traffic signalization project came in. Was estimated 460, came in 313.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's maybe your engineering.
Yeah, I can't answer that either. The only thing I would emphasize is Golden Valley and Elizabeth Holland were approved in this year's budget. And we delayed them for the Norwalk Central. So just something to think about there. And it's all based on if we continue to grow and our debt service fund, we were 10% last year, we're on pace for that. It really depends on growth and where our numbers come in. We could possibly do all of these projects. We're just trying to be conservative.
I think that's a good idea.
So the primary question for council at this point, are you comfortable with us proceeding to enter into an engineering contract? Of course, we don't have that firm yet, but are you comfortable with us going down that path, finding an engineer with the anticipation of starting the Blue Stem Prairie Sage project in fiscal year 24? So that would be fall of 23.
Yes.
Would Golden Valley be before that? Yeah. Because that's.
That would happen on a regular schedule.
Okay, yeah. All right.
I think I heard from David and Jackie, both yes?
Yes, from
Yes.
Jackie.
Yes, from me.
Awesome.
There you go.
All right. That's all I needed. We'll get to work on that and we'll bring back the contract for that engineering work.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, item 9, council inquiries and staff updates. Luke.
I have just a couple of items. First, Jackie kind of emphasized with her yes vote on that site plan, but that is another huge step for us in getting our core facility and Norwalk Central started. Just to reinforce, that's a big item. So that's a huge positive. I do have to bring up, just to prep everybody, parking is always going to be a complaint. We just prepare for that right up front. I think we need to know that. But that's a huge step forward. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for being supportive and moving that forward. The second item, Ed, I believe you're the representative on the Metro Waste Authority.
Yes, sir. Yep. Yes, sir.
Our city managers got together and we were invited for a tour at the training session at that facility. It is incredible. It really is a neat facility. Michael McCoy offered up to us two things. One, that if we ever wanted to do some kind of a mobile work session or a tour, he would love to have our council come there and do the same tour of the facility. I think you'd find it very interesting.
Cool operation.
Number two, he informed us that you recall that there was a theft of money through Metro Waste from a previous employee. We have received, of course, we're members of Metro Waste. That's why I say we received the first payment back from that individual that's now in prison of $62.
All right, Justice.
I don't want to say what the total amount of theft was compared to that $62, but they're heading in the right direction.
62.
That's all I have.
Attorney got
$62 more than what?
Attorney took a cut in the fee, I think.
Jackie.
I don't have anything. Thank you.
I'm good.
Lindsay.
No, thanks.
Robin.
Pool is open and everything is running smoothly. Also wanted to let everyone know that next week, Monday, Tuesday, Dakota is going to be spraying the ponds. So he will be on the ponds with a kayak. So if anyone calls and complains, and is staff, it is approved because it's a city activity. So that's all I have.
All right, thanks. Jean Strable.
No report, thank you.
Jean Kelly.
No report, thank you.
Holly.
Jackie, excuse me, Councilmember Livingston and I will be missing from the next council meeting because we'll be on the state delegation trip to Kosovo. We have a pretty heavy agenda when we're there. Lots of business and trade, visiting economic zones and companies that are looking to come to Iowa and meeting the new government and our sister city officials and everybody else as well. And some really cool police initiatives that Assistant Chief from Westfield.
He's been
will be
all
there
of those
for.
things.
Yes.
So you've got them all.
So represent us well. But anyway, there will probably be several things on that agenda that I won't be here for that are important. So sorry, Luke. You'll have to run with those, but they're important things for our projects. And thank you for approving the Norwalk Central site plan too. A lot of work went into getting it to that point, and very proud of all the entities and all the departments that worked on all of that. So moving on.
Okay. Chief.
Last Friday, well, this summer lunch in the park has returned. Lunch in the Park was something that the police department participated in and sponsored every year for about 5 years before COVID. This year it's come back, and the police department sponsored the second Friday of the event, which was last Friday. We raised $265, then went out and hung out with people there and served food and had a good time. There are 8 more sessions every Friday until the end of summer. We will not sponsor anymore, but we may be there to play with the kids and have lunch. So Sunday was the Ironman bike portion, the bike portion of the Ironman race that came through town. We had a $2,900 overtime bill that we're going to send to Ironman for reimbursement. We had no real problems. One call for service based on a man who blew his grass clippings out into the road as where the bicycles were coming by, which makes it unsafe for bicycles. And a few drivers who were a little bit upset, but most everybody was understanding, and there were no injuries or mishaps on officers or riders while they were in Norwalk.
The fire department also participated in the Ironman competition. We were one of the EMS agencies that was alongside of Des Moines, West Des Moines, Waukee, Madison County, Dallas County. They said we had a little bit of a debriefing the other night. Polk County EMA said there was 1,033 riders, and we had about 80 contacts on the bike route. Norwalk only had about 20 contacts, no transports, mostly heat related. But it's just a really neat opportunity for us to come alongside a lot of other metro agencies and see how everybody kind of works together. I think it falls right into place with our emergency planning and that sort of thing. So it's a good opportunity for us. We did lay to rest one of our retired firefighters today. Jacqueline was a longtime member of this community, and he gave 55 years to this department. So it was a sad day for the fire department.
He's a good man. You know, my mom used to say that you could tell how somebody lived their lives by the size of their funeral. And that funeral procession went on a long way. Yeah. And I imagine several of you in this room probably knew Jack. He was a man that had opinions and he wasn't afraid to share them. But he was a good man, and he did a lot for the community. And I think he was also on the city council, if I remember right. But he served in a lot of different capacities and did the community a lot of good. So, you know, he's a loss and it's a shame, but we can celebrate his life.
Yep. That's all. Thank you.
Tony?
Nothing else here, Mayor. Thanks.
All right, Luke.
Yes. Permit wise, we're up to 142 single family and townhome permits. So that puts us on pace to where we were last year. We're at 143. So, and you remember we ended up at 300 total last year. So chugging along on the permit side, issued a whole total of 181 permits across all our permit types in May. Reminder that our comp plan open house is coming up in July. It's on the 14th at the Lakewood Elementary at 6 p.m. Continue to make some good progress on our next steps for the North River Sewer. Had some good discussions with Luke this week about what we need to do with that, and that seems to be progressing. We've got 2 rehab applications for our LMI program that have submitted bids for their projects. So I'm working on those contracts and have Jim review those, and should have them to you all at one of our July council meetings. One of them is for repaving bus stop driveway and sidewalks, and the other is for new windows and siding. We had a problem unsafe building that we've made council aware of. We posted that building on Monday that it was unsafe and not allowed to enter. We have another 15 days where they are allowed to submit their permits to make the necessary work for said building. And then at that point, we may be back to you all with next steps on that project as well. And then lastly, we got our first ash tree nuisance in. So that's likely going to be abated at the end of the month. That'll be a good thing to go through so we get a better idea on what those costs are to abate an ash tree. Other nuisance work has been mainly just grass and weeds and junk vehicles.
All right. Thank you. Ed?
Yeah, I just got one comment, Mayor. It's probably happy news. But tomorrow, the wife and I are celebrating our 50th wedding anniversary. Yeah, what a surprise, huh?
Happy anniversary.
Well,
Congratulations. Happy anniversary.
thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. And that's all I've got.
All right, thank you. Let's see, David.
I'll follow Ed and say happy anniversary to my wife. It's our 21st today. And then is it Councilman Livingston's birthday as well? So happy birthday.
All right, happy birthday.
Happy anniversary and thank you.
All right. That's interesting that, so it's your anniversary today?
No, tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Correct.
And David's is today.
David's
Okay.
today. Look at that, huh?
Nice. Stephanie.
Good people get married in June.
Real quick on the MPO side, and Luke Kurtz might have to help me out on the terminology here. So in a nutshell, Iowa DOT takes the federal money and swaps it so that we don't have to go through the whole federal bid process and all that. Well, that's going to change because of the way that the funding is coming through. So starting with projects bid in fiscal year 23 and out, all STBG funds, which is basically the MPO awarded money that would come to Norwalk, those projects will have to go through the federal bid process, which will be a nightmare. But just, in thinking about timing of projects and how they get done and how soon we have to back into a starting date for that is really going to change. And then I don't know if I was the only one that got the email at the Justice Center. Open house is June 29th from 1 to 2 in the afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
With
that's right.
tours after.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you.
It's Stephanie, real quick, just to let you know that Wayne brought up that issue and him and Jim worked to make sure that our Beardsley project was one that if we met a certain deadline, which you guys, I believe you got the paperwork done, Jim,
I think so.
that we're right on the verge of being kicked into that.
Yes, I contacted Wayne right after. the
Oh,
meeting,
good.
so-
Well, they worked on that to make sure they met that deadline.
Good.
So thanks for doing that.
All right.
I just echo what was said about Jack Lane. He was a huge asset to the community. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Had a great time playing golf, chamber golf tournament today. Our team actually got 4 under par. Unfortunately, Chief Staples' team was 7 under par, so I owe him a beer.
Oh, all right, Chief.
Like those. Don't forget June 30th in here, strategic planning session. I was going to say happy birthday to Jackie. And David, today is my 38th anniversary.
Wow. Look at that, huh? Congratulations.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
A lot of good people get married in June.
There you go. A lot of good people get married in June. All right. With that said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion second.
Motion by Cool, seconded by Livingston. All those in favor say aye.
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 Same. Motion carries. We're adjourned at 8:22 p.m.
Good night, all.